Welcome into today's broadcast right here at Cog Hill Farm. Make sure to check us out at www.thecoghillfarm.com. Now, Peaches wouldn't let Nugget into the house for this episode, so here's Jason, Brooke, and our chicken master, Marycarl.
All right, what is up, guys? This is Jason and Brooke, a.k.a. Mrs. Cog Hill, over here at Cog Hill Farm, and this is another episode of the Cogcast podcast, and this is number 3. They've been going good.
3?
Number 3, they've been going good, or 3 with you.
Yeah,
that's right. This is actually 73.
Oh, well.
I've done 73 of these podcasts.
So I was away for 69 of those.
You were gone for a while.
I'm back!
So this has been great. Like I said earlier, man, the feedback has been crazy. It has been really, really crazy. I just can't believe people love the podcast as much as they did. We're still trying to work the kinks out. I think the last one, the mics wasn't working properly.
Well, we had some people tell us that mine was covering up my face.
Right.
And, just a few things that we could do differently. And we want to hear that kind of thing, but there's some things that we are unable to change.
There's some things we're unable to change. This is our studio is the extra bedroom. This is my room. This is where I edit all the videos. It is where we package and do all our hats. This is where we do the podcast. This is everything is in this room. And I even got a mattress over here, a bed, because a lot of times I'm in here, like last night, it was 12:30 when I got through editing the video. So I slip in here, I'll crash in here, a lot.
Jason and Arlo hung out together, and me and my girls hung out together.
That's right. Yeah, Arlo comes up here with me every night and helps me edit and do things that need to be done with the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel.
Yeah, that's right.
But it is what it is. So we are a little bit limited on some things. We're thinking about a backdrop of some sort to get this mirror and TV that I haven't cut on in probably at least a year. So we're trying to figure out a little backdrop back here. So it'll be a little more appeasing, I guess.
And I said last time we may have a little different setup because I had a table that I was watching on Craigslist, and it didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
She sold it before I got to it, and it's something that I don't want to put a whole lot of money into. So we just need to make it, a little more accommodating for 3 people to sit here.
That's right.
When Marycarl joins us, she's not here tonight because there again we're talking about things where she wasn't even involved. So there'll come a time where she'll sit in with us and do a little increments, but it won't be tonight. So
won't be tonight, but her stuff is here, and I hooked it all up last night, make sure it all worked. So she is ready. She is ready for her podcast debut, I guess maybe next week.
Well, we don't want to get too excited because it may not happen, or it may, but we don't want to put anything in stone.
That's right. It
kind of depends on how far we go with our talk tonight.
That's right.
But she may be born after this episode.
That's right. We were basically just talking about the origins of Cog Hill, how we got started. If you missed the first 2, go back and check those out, and that'll kind of get you up to speed. But we had left off, we were talking about goats. I don't know how the subject came up. I guess our first goats we got.
Yeah, we were talking about how we made mistakes on fencing, and
yes,
how you put the braces in the corners on the inside, and the goats got out.
Just crawled right up them.
And then we ended up getting the Nubian, which ended up being our favorite goat of all time.
That's right. And his name was Earl.
His name was Earl. And there was a reason his name was Earl.
Earl? Well, let me get into that.
Okay.
We had befriended a lady who we called the Goat Lady.
Yeah, she was the Goat Lady at the time. And
she told us about this auction, and it was in Clanton, Alabama.
Which is only about 40 miles from us. So that was just, something we could do on the weekend.
That's
because
right.
It was on a Saturday and it was during the day. So we wouldn't have to, drive at night. And we thought, well, we'll just run over there and go see what it's like. So one day she agreed to meet us over there.
So I had visions in my head of what this auction was going to look like. I'm thinking maybe an old barn or a metal building. Just had in my mind what this thing was going to look like. And when we rolled up, it was absolutely nothing. And I wasn't thinking of nothing nice at all. I was just thinking of like a big structure that would hold a lot of people and stuff. This thing was like 3 welding shops put together, and then maybe like a little one of those little tin sheds that you buy to put your lawnmower. I mean, this thing was a hodgepodge of buildings.
I don't think I had any idea of what I was even going into. I didn't even have the inclination as to what a livestock auction would be like. So it was totally new to me.
I was thinking maybe a little arena and seats. And it had makeshift bleachers.
Yeah, it did. It had bleachers. I remember that. And the floor was dirt.
And then it had like regular cloth chairs, just mismatched, different cloth. And of course, they were in 6 inches of dust.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you
didn't come in your Sunday best. That was for sure.
No. I mean, I was floored at it. I mean, like I said, I had this whole thing envisioned in my head. Here was the thing that really got me. I remember they had a concession stand in this place.
They did have a concession stand. There was lots of good eating going on at the time, and Jason was kind of opposed to eating in this.
While you're in line at the concession stand, you're standing next to the chickens being auctioned off.
That's right.
That's no lie.
It was close quarters.
You're counting your money, and you got...
or you're biting into a nacho.
Or you're biting into a nacho and cheese, and you got a Rhode Island Red with his head sticking out of cage, trying to, see what's up. And it is right there.
It was right there.
So
You're bringing back some memories. I'm wondering if they still do this auction.
I don't know. And I'm sure somebody listening to this podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about and where we're talking about.
I mean, I would remember how to get there, but I don't know that we should take Marycarl.
No.
Because she has a tendency to want to bring everything home. And
she gets it honestly.
Well, she does, because we went to the back area of the auction before the auction started.
That's right.
And they had like corrals, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And it had different sellers' items these different areas.
And let me. This thing was known as a goat auction.
It was a goat auction.
You had other things there, but it was known
for
goats.
I mean, there were chickens on the inside, but you didn't go for chickens. You went for goats.
You went for goats.
And the corrals were filled with goats. Now, there were puppies that were sold, some Great Pyrenees.
We bought our first Great Pyrenees from the goat auction.
We did. We actually met the man that brought the puppies. And,
super nice. And we'd never had a bad experience at this place either. Matter of fact, we actually got this was our weekends. Yeah, we loved going to the goat auction.
But the only 2 things we ever bought was the Great Pyrenees and Earl. And back to the corral in the back, there were just little areas, and they had the seller's items enclosed in those certain little corrals.
That's right.
If you brought 15 goats would be in that one little area.
That's right.
Or if you brought 2 goats, your 2 goats would be in that one area. So you could look at what the seller's number was and see what they were offering. Well, in this one little corral, there were all these little, thin, tiny
Nubians.
But
at the time, we had no idea goat breeds. I mean,
we didn't know what it was.
We knew what a fainting goat was because we had some fainting
goats because we had 2 fainting goats.
And we knew what a pygmy was because they were little. But Nigerian dwarf, we had no idea what a Nigerian dwarf goat was.
We couldn't have determined the difference in a Nigerian dwarf and a pygmy.
There's no way. No.
So we knew it was a floppy-eared goat.
And
it was cute.
And so our buddy, the goat lady,
he had a tag in his ear.
That's right.
He had a big red tag in his ear with a number on it.
She told us that's a Nubian, and they're very friendly.
Yes, and we thought, well, wonder how much he'll go for. What do you think he'll go for? And it was kind of like, I don't know. Let's just go sit down and wait and see what happens.
He did not look healthy at all.
He did not.
He was extremely thin. Very, very thin.
You could see his backbone at the top. And he was young, but he was not like, I wouldn't say bottle baby age.
That's right.
He was weaned is what,
He was weaned.
But he was...
But you know what? We bottle fed him.
I don't think we did.
We did. Earl was a bottle baby because I remember sticking it through the fence.
That's right.
Earl was a bottle baby. Another thing that was cool, what made Earl stand out was his color.
He was red.
Earl was red. I mean, red.
And he to this day is the only red Nubian I've ever seen.
Like Reba McEntire red.
He was Piper red.
Piper red.
Marycarl's friend Piper red. I mean, and I still haven't seen another one.
I've never seen another. Just he was red and white. And if I find a picture, I'll put up in this podcast. Red and white, and
the auction started, and we're sitting on the bleachers, and Jason's not a very. I won't say he's not outgoing, because he is outgoing on the camera, but he's not outgoing behind, in person, I guess you would say.
I suffer from social anxiety, and I really have a hard time with one-on-one interactions with people.
Whereas I do better with one-on-one interaction.
Right.
I do better with one-on-one than I do sitting here doing this.
Right. And to give you an example, I really, really struggle with drive-thrus. I struggle with going to the bank window, and I mean struggle. And it sounds crazy, but I struggle.
Sometimes wonder, why does she drive all the time? Well, I guess maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe so. I don't know.
Maybe it just became a habit because I knew that you didn't want to be faced with a situation where you had to take control, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of the leader when it comes to that kind of thing, talking to people.
That's right. You are the one that...
Not to say making decisions. If a decision needs to be made, we make that together in private. But as far as communicating with somebody, I mostly do that. If it's one-on-one.
If it's one-on-one.
On this camera, Jason can take control.
I can handle it on the camera with and if it's a big crowd, usually if it's a bunch of people, but I guess that's because I hide, I can blend in.
I don't know.
It's really, really weird.
And then speaking of me not having that problem, I did have that problem.
That's right, you did have the problem.
And we'll cover that before we get back to Earl, but I was in my 20s, and it was a troubling time, I guess you would say. I got married in June, as we talked about, and that was June of 2000. My father passed away in August of 2000. And so I said in the previous podcast, here I was, an only child. My mother just lost her only husband, and here I am living alone with my husband, who I've never lived outside of my family home. And it was about a year after his death that I was working a job. And I got to where I was actually a telemarketer, and I got to where if the phone rang, I could not answer it.
Right.
And I was like, what is wrong with me? It was just something, I couldn't do it.
Which was so not you, because you're very outgoing.
So not me, because I was used to carrying on. I mean, that's what I like to do, is I like to talk to people, and that was my job. And it wasn't like I was calling people saying, I'm calling about your car's warranty.
Right.
That kind of
job. She sold guns.
I sold guns.
Guns.
It was a company in Selma called Walter Craig.
Big wholesale distributor.
We distributed guns all over the United States. Guns and ammunition and accessories.
Right.
And so I would, say, thank you for calling Walter Craig. This is Brooke. May I take your order, please? And it was kind of like McDonald's, but different because they were only calling you if they wanted to place an order.
Right.
So you're not having random people calling you. They had to have a FFL, Federal Firearms License, and then they had to be in our system. They were customers of ours, and we all had our own customer base. So when that phone would ring, if it was just a call-in, anybody would answer it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to where I couldn't say, thank you for calling Walter Craig. May I help you? And I didn't know what was wrong. And so I started blaming it on my blood sugar, thinking I had a blood sugar problem. And, taking packs of peanuts to work with me, trying all kind of little tricks of the trade to try to make myself better. And nothing seemed to work. And I had just so many different strange issues going on. After I would eat, I would feel like I needed to vomit.
Yeah.
And I went to multiple doctors.
Right.
All the doctors wanted to do was put me on medication that would, potentially not good for you and something that could become lifelong dependent. I didn't want that. So finally, I went to my general doctor, and I sat down and I said, something is wrong with me. And he said, what do you mean? And he did not have a good personality, good bedside manner at all.
He wasn't warm.
Not at all.
He was a doctor, and he wasn't warm. I mean, that's all I can put it. He wasn't like being ugly. He was just straight to the point, cold.
So here I am, the first time in my life having talked about that I have something wrong with me, but I don't know what it is. I go and sit down and admit to him that I have something wrong, and he looks at me and he said, well, are you anxious or are you depressed? In that manner.
Yeah.
And I'm not a crier.
Right.
I don't know that Jason's ever seen me cry 5 times in my life.
Right.
And I started bawling. I'm talking about to the point where everybody in that office was like, what is wrong with that girl?
Uh-huh.
And they may not have been thinking that,
right.
but in my mind, that's what they were thinking, because here I was admitting I need help and I don't know what to do. So this is when they tried to prescribe drugs to try to mask that problem, whatever it was, even though he didn't know what was wrong. He wasn't a psychiatrist. He was a general MD. And so he did give me some medication to try to mask my problems. Well, it did nothing. It did nothing but make me want to go to sleep and made the problem worse. And so it continued on, and I ended up having to quit my job. And Jason was working at the time. We had just gotten married. We didn't have any financial burden, so we were in a position where I could stay at home. And it helped because I started keeping the grass manicured, which is what Jason was loving, was his yard at the time.
I was loving my yard, and I remember thinking, oh, she's going to screw my grass up.
I cut your grass today.
Oh,
and here he is cutting it left and right and up and down, and I cut the grass today. Anyway. So I'm staying at home, and I am just not a sit-down kind of person. I am a stay busy, gotta go, can't sit still. I don't even like sitting here right now. I need to be moving. And I found ways to keep myself busy. I started cooking a lot.
That's right.
I had a hot meal ready, lunch and dinner. I visited my mom a lot. She was at home by herself.
Right.
And cleaned up her yard.
Did all her yard
work.
And it was a big yard.
It was a big yard. So I found ways to keep myself busy.
Right.
And kind of calm myself down, I guess you would say.
Yep.
So my mom, I'm still having problems. I just still don't know what's wrong with me. And my mom says that she had met this lady while my dad was at UAB having cancer treatment, and she was called a grievance counselor. And she thought that she would contact her and see what she said. And I thought, here I am. I'm not needing to speak with anyone. I'm not having any kind of trouble where my dad dying was not my issue, is what I thought.
Right.
And so I agreed. We ended up going to this lady's house and meeting with her in private. And all she told me was basically, just because your daddy died does not mean that you're about to die. And something about her saying that to me, just because your daddy had cancer does not mean that you're going to have cancer. Just because,
Yeah, right.
And it was just little things like that. And I thought to myself, maybe that is my problem. But I still didn't know that was my problem. She recommended a low dose of an antidepressant and took me off all of the other things. She could not prescribe medicine because she was a grievance counselor, but she could make recommendations to my doctor.
Right.
So she took me off all of that medication, got me on the low dose antidepressant, and slowly but surely we started to see a change.
Yes.
And from that point on, I feel like that just my mental setting and knowing that just because I had a family member that just passed away did not mean that anything was going to happen to me, my mother, my husband,
right,
my mother-in-law, everybody else, they were okay.
Right.
For me to stop worrying about things that I could not control. And as hard as that sounded, it was the best advice I'd ever received.
It was life-changing.
It was life-changing because Jason felt like he had his wife back.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were times when he thought, what have I got myself into? Because I went from being normal one day to not normal the next. And that's true.
It was true. It was really true.
It was just about an overnight happening, and I didn't know why. So, lesson is, just because you may have issues going on, that doesn't mean they can't be fixed.
That's right.
We all have problems, and they may not be evident on the outside. Jason has social anxiety that's with him today. He does not take any medication for it.
I don't.
And he constantly battles with it. But you don't know that. Y'all don't know it. I mean, you can't tell it. And, I mean, he can dance on camera. I can't dance on camera because I can't dance. But
yeah.
You just wouldn't know it. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself and his social.
Yeah, I've always been like that. Always. Extremely shy, and it's always been, one-on-one with people. Always been like that. But I can be in the dance studio with a dance team and go dance on a stage in front of 400 people.
See, that just goes to show how we're all different, because that's something I could not do.
Yep.
I don't care how little or much anxiety I had. That's just not wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
And then we had talked about maybe saying something about your eye.
Oh, yeah. Other thing is some things you may not know about us was one that I had social anxiety, and the other one is I was born with my whole left side wasn't developed, and I'm missing 2 eye muscles in my left eye.
Take your glasses off.
And that's why, I know y'all have seen it before, but that's why my left eye doesn't blink. There's no eye muscle there originally. It's an extremely rare
condition. I guess you would say.
Very, very rare. So much so that if anybody knows UAB or the Callahan Center, the Callahan Eye Foundation, Dr. Callahan's well known in the eye medical field.
Yes.
His dad was my doctor. He had just gotten back from England, Dr. Callahan.
You were how old?
I was 3 when they started. They didn't know what to do. It's pretty, like I said, it was very, very rare.
Because you did not have any
My
control
eye would stay
of that
shut
eye.
pretty
Right.
much. My eye would stay shut pretty much. So they had to come up with the plan, and their first one is they actually just chopped my eyelid off. So my eye would stay open. Of course, that they figured out that wasn't going to work, and so the next one is they put a dead man's eye muscles in my eye.
I thought they did the leg next. Okay.
And that didn't work. My body rejected it. And then the third operation is they took a small piece of muscle out of my leg and put it above my eyebrow. And then I use that muscle. I can manually close it, but it's not voluntary like a normal blink is, but I can manually open and close my eye now. So what happened I was probably, what this happened, about 10, 15 years ago? Before Marycarl was born, so it's probably around 15 years ago. I decided, you know what, maybe with technology like it is, that they've came out with a new way of doing this condition.
And the reason is because it gets so dry.
It gets really dry. I have to constantly, I keep eye gel, eye drops. I have to sleep with a sleep mask on.
And because he's on a computer all day at work, when he gets home, that eye is just literally bloodshot.
Yeah.
And, I can tell he's had a long day, and that's on a daily basis. So you have to know that can't be very good for you.
Right. Well, actually, I got scar tissue that's slowly developing, and they say eventually it's possibly that it'll just cover up my pupil, so then I won't be able to see out of it. But it hadn't happened yet, so it may never happen. But so he went there back to and had an appointment with Dr. Callahan. It's been years since I've seen him. I've gone to regular eye doctors throughout my life. I go every year, but just for this specific condition, I hadn't seen Dr. Callahan probably since I was 11 or 12 years old. So it's probably been, 20 or 30 years since I've seen him.
Right. And it wasn't for cosmetic purposes, because he is what he is.
Right.
It was not that. It was just thinking that they could do something to make him more comfortable.
Right. So I get in there, and he comes in there, and this is no lie. It was literally like he saw a ghost or Brad Pitt. One of the two.
I'm thinking it was Brad Pitt.
You should have seen the look on this guy's face when he saw me. I mean, it was so noticeable when he saw who I was. He just lit up. Well, come to find out, I was the first person that's ever had this surgery, and he goes on to tell me that there's nothing else they can do, and if anybody in the country has the same condition I have, they will pull my file and do the same procedure they did on me back in 1978.
Isn't that amazing? That was a long time ago, too. So, I mean, you would just think with technology the way it is today, that they would say, hey, we can take this and do this.
Nope. They still do that. They take a piece of muscle out of somebody's leg and put it above their eyebrow. He goes on to tell me that there's been multiple articles written about my eye. My eye's been in several eye magazines who knew those existed. So my left eye is kind of famous in the eye world.
Well, I love it. So, but speaking of taking the muscle from his leg, when Jason and I were meeting for the first time at the beach, of course we had shorts on. I look over, we're riding in the back seat of a car, and I look over at his leg, and I thought to myself, this guy's been bit by a spider.
He looks like a spider.
Because it looks like a spider. It's about that big around, and it's got these arms coming off of it. And all I could do was look down and think, I don't know what kind of spider bit him.
That's funny.
I wonder if it was a big spider.
Because it does look like a spider.
It does. It looks like a spider.
It looks a lot like a spider. But yeah, so that is that's
our anxiety
issues. That's our anxiety issues, and I know people probably wondered about my eye.
And, back to that goat auction, I don't think either of us probably was very comfortable being at the auction at that time.
No, we probably wasn't because we knew nothing. I'm telling you, we knew nothing. We've already had 2 goats. One of them died within 3 days of us owning it.
Yes.
And so now we're at a goat auction, and we decided we want this goat. So we start bidding on it. And of course, Jason's not holding his hand up. No, I'm not holding
He's all tucked in, and I'm bidding away. And we get to what dollar amount?
Listen, it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up. And I'm like, well, man, what? It keeps going up, and we paid a whopping $18.
$18 for Earl. And we, our friend was like, just keep bidding.
Just keep bidding.
And we did. We kept bidding until we won.
$18.
And so we weren't planning on leaving at that point, but now we've got a little red goat. And
we had I'm thinking we probably drove Earl back in your little 2-door Honda.
Probably so.
I don't think we had a truck.
I know we didn't because I can remember me driving and you holding him in the front seat.
I was holding Earl, and I remember we hadn't been gone a good 5-10 minutes, and my lap got warm.
And I had to get gas. So we stopped at a gas station, and Jason lifted Earl up, and lo and behold, he had urinated all in
everywhere.
His lap.
And that wasn't the only time Earl urinated on the way home.
No, it wasn't.
Because it's a good 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's about a 45 minute drive.
And he pooped.
So Jason,
but luckily, goat poop is like raisinets.
Oh yeah, it's little balls, little confined, not like nugget poop.
Not
we would have been in trouble.
We'd have been in big trouble.
You might would have hung his rear end out.
That would have been bad.
Out the window on the way home. So we get Earl home.
Yep.
And we
bottle fed Earl.
Well, our first thing was, how are we going to get this tag out of his ear?
That's right. How did we get the tag out of his ear?
I don't remember.
It had to be wire cutters.
Do you remember the hole it left?
Yeah, it left a hole in his ear. Because what we were told is that these goats, these big dairy farmers, and I didn't know we had any around here, but obviously we do.
In Clanton anyway, or nearby.
So the bucks are worthless to them.
Yeah, they're just
So they load them up and take them to the auction.
If they get $1 for it, that's $1 more. That's $1 more,
and that's why they had tags in them, because they tag all their goats because they probably got.
Well, they needed to know who was a buck and who was a doe for separation purposes.
So that's why he had the tag in his ear. We did take the tag out.
We did. I think we got Julie and Dave to probably take that out, and that was the goat lady's name, Julie.
Julie, and she banded him for us.
Dave banded him.
Yep.
Since she was the goat lady, they had the equipment to band him, and now we know that it's in certain situations.
Some people still band, some people don't.
I don't really have an opinion on that. I just know that we have the ability to have ours cut, and so therefore we do that.
We've been told that it's better.
It could help prevent the urinary calcification if they're cut, and that's what we've been told. Now that may not be actually.
Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. My camera stops recording. So, all right, yeah. So that's why we cut them, is because we've been told that is better, because we'll get into this later in the story, but what happens with male goats is, and all goats, not just males, is just bad for males versus females because the way they're built. But it's basically a kidney stone is what it is.
Yeah, it's stones that build up and they're not able to pass it through their urethra.
Right.
So therefore it gets stuck and it lodges and they can't urinate.
Right.
And one way to prevent that is adding minerals to your feed.
That and
ammonium chloride.
Yeah, ammonia. And so if you look at your goat feed, see if it has that in it. Because you really want that if you got bucks.
If you've got bucks or wethers.
Or you can buy it. You can buy it and sprinkle it on your feed. The mineral we sprinkle on ours has it in it as well. So
our feed has it and our minerals have it.
It all has it in there. So that is very important. And why the male versus the female is that the male is curved like a letter S. So when that kidney stone's coming around, it's called something, and it's too big of a word for me. I'm from Alabama, so it's curved. So that
some
kidney
kind of
stone,
calcification.
something, and so it's got a better chance of getting caught in those curves. As the females, it's kind of straight.
Yeah.
So the females will get them, and they'll just TT them out.
It's no
but
problem.
the males will get stuck. If they get stuck, they're in trouble because they can't pass urine. So that's why it's very important that you do
add the minerals, add the ammonium chloride. And
so Earl
became our favorite quite quickly.
We bottle fed him, and now I know 100% sure we bottle fed him. Earl became a dog.
Oh my gosh.
A total pet.
And I remember feeding him 3 times a day, which he probably didn't need to be fed 3 times a day, but he liked it and we liked him. So
yes.
He was fed 3 times a day. There was no Marycarl at this time.
No,
so
Marycarl.
Earl was the baby.
Earl was the baby. Earl was big. He was a big goat because he was a new
really fast.
Y'all seen Big Joe? He wasn't quite as big as Big Joe,
but his legs were very long, and
but
he was
big.
lanky, and he was not a very pretty young goat.
He wasn't.
I mean, he was just
how they just the big
stage.
floppy ears, the goofiness, and the Nubians look goofy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they do look.
They look awkward. I mean, they look like they just fall over. They look like Goofy.
Yeah, they do. And he would just
that was Earl.
That's just how he was.
That's just Earl.
He would rather have been with us than been with any goat in that pen.
He loved us.
He did.
Fall came.
Right.
And during the fall here in Central Alabama, that is fair time.
And what happens in the fair is, if you have chickens and different livestock animals that are shown.
Typical county fair stuff. And they had the goat show.
And our friend, the goat lady, said, y'all ought to show Earl in the show. And we were like, yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah, right. We ought to show Earl. But yeah, we'll show Earl.
And my thinking is nobody's going to be at this show.
Nobody's going to be there. So
the day of the show, we brush him.
Yeah,
I got a bandana,
a blue bandana,
and wrapped it and tied it around his neck,
which looks so pretty with his red color because it was kind of a turquoise. Well, not really. It was kind of royal blue.
And we had a old. This is what we drove.
A 1989 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Was it an 89? I thought it was older than that.
82 maybe.
It was old. It was really, really old.
A Toyota Land Cruiser.
It got 6 miles to the gallon.
And we're literally. But I loved it. It was like a vintage looking Toyota is what it was.
And we didn't care about the inside because it was old.
It was old. And it had vinyl interior.
Yes.
And the seats let down to where it was like SUV today.
Yeah,
I mean, there were no SUVs like this back then.
Right.
This was an SUV that you let the seats down and it made like a big area where Earl could walk around.
Loaded Earl up. No problems.
No problems. He jumped right in.
Cracked
Roll
the window.
the windows down.
He's hanging his head out like a dog.
Riding through the city of Selma.
Do you know how big those ears are? It's like a basset hound back there just flopping. You talk about some funny looks driving through the city.
Oh, we were just tickled because we were just taking our Earl to the county fair.
So we're halfway there. I'm feeling pretty confident because nobody's going to be at this goat show. If they are, they're going to have, just some old brush goats,
Well, the only people we knew that had goats was the goat lady.
Yeah, that's it. And she was coming, and then another friend of ours was bringing their goat, and he was younger, so he wouldn't be in our class. Right. So we think, we got this.
Uh-huh.
We pull up at the fair. There are goat trailers with airbrushing on the side of it, with air conditions in it. I'm talking, like they look like Winnebago campers.
With like electric letdowns to where your animals wouldn't have to take a step. They could go down a little ramp.
I'm thinking, what in the world have we got ourselves into?
And people out there dressed in all white.
And why is that?
I don't know why that is.
What person that started goat showing said, you know what? Goats are nasty. Let's just dress up in all white out here on the dirt floor arena.
Well, if I remember correctly, we didn't even know that you were supposed to dress in
Oh, no, we didn't dress
white.
up. I got a pair of blue jeans on and a brown shirt. I'm going to find that picture of me and Earl at the goat show. So, yeah, we pull up, and this is no lie. I'm talking, you're talking $1,000 rigs.
Yeah, they were.
These people were professional goat people.
And here we are with our Earl.
Our
on a
$18 Earl.
On a dog leash.
From the goat sale with a dog leash and a bandana on. I mean, we look like the Duke boys.
And a hole in his ear from where his tag came out. That hole never healed. It was a hole in the ear. So it was a local vet that was a judge.
Local vet that was a judge. And we didn't know him. He wasn't our vet. So there was no connection there.
But we knew who he was, even though he didn't know who we were.
So we're walking up there, and the thing is that Earl was an adult goat. So we were
male goat.
So we were in the upper class. We wasn't with these little kids or nothing like that. We could have beat the kids.
Yeah.
We couldn't beat these people. No. These people were professional.
We were in the class with the big goats and the...
Listen, when we're walking through there, these goats look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
They did. They were boars.
If
I remember, the most of the goats that we were running against were boars because it was a large breed.
These things, I'm telling y'all,
look like beautiful.
They look like The Rock.
They were beautiful.
They were slick and shiny, just like a bodybuilder. You know how a bodybuilder slicks up and you can see all his pecs and his triceps and his six pack. That's what these goats are on steroids.
Yep.
I'm telling you, they were on steroids.
They were serious.
These people were serious.
They were there to win.
They were there to take no prisoners.
No.
They would have cut their mama to win this goat show.
But Brooke was not going to be the one to show Earl.
I was going to show Earl.
Jason was going to show him. And I don't know how we ever got to that point that you decided you were going to be the one to show him.
I think because...
Maybe you could handle him better.
I could probably handle Earl better. So we get out in the arena, and I may have been the first one out. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
But you walk around this little thing showing Earl, and Earl's pretty good. He's just a boop-a-doop-a-doop. So we're just boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop,
and
right there.
And they wanted you to go to a certain point and then turn him around and let it see the other side.
And so here comes, these bodybuilders. I mean, it was almost like... I can imagine now when these goats came out, it was like an entrance of a WWE wrestler, just fireworks just shooting up and like The Rock coming down, this guy. I mean, these goats were they were beautiful.
They were beautiful. They were very beautiful.
So they got us in line, and of course the judge, he's looking at them and checking their eyes and looking on them, and so I'm thinking, well, it was fun, buddy. It was fun, we had a great time, and I'm glad we did it, and glad you got to go riding around in the truck. And so, the judge is standing back, looking around, and I'm thinking, golly, come on, man, let's go and get this over with and give the money and the ribbons to these professionals over here. And he's like, all right, first place, Earl. And I'm like, what?
I remember how happy we were.
Well, Earl won.
And so here are Jason, myself, the goat lady, and our other friend that had a goat, and we're all like high-fiving each other, and we look over, and the look on the lady that had the second place goat was priceless.
These people were angry.
They were angry. I was scared my tires might not make
it was almost like being at like in a movie and like at a bar scene and it's high stakes poker and they think you're cheating and a brawl breaks out and you just sneak out the back door because that's what it felt like.
Oh, we were thrilled. We
were extremely happy, and I could not believe it that he won.
I couldn't believe it either.
But these people were fighting mad.
They were mad. How could this happen?
They were mad. I felt sorry for the judge. It's kind of like a football game, and he blew the call at the end, and those fans was ready to kill him.
But I think we started realizing from that point on that the ugly duckling was now the beautiful.
It made us realize, especially different breeds. It wasn't all about, he was pretty in his own right and beautiful in his own right in his own way.
Yeah,
because
he was characteristic
a Nubian.
of a Nubian. He met all the qualities.
He did.
We didn't know that.
No.
But the judge did.
Obviously, the judge did.
He knew what a Nubian was supposed to look like, and he did. He hit all those mile markers.
I guess so, because he won.
He won first place, Central Alabama Fair. How about that? We were
Earl, the $18 goat.
Yeah.
That is so crazy, though, thinking about it to this day.
And Cog Hill Farm didn't exist back then.
No, it didn't exist back then.
But
there was no Cog Hill Farm.
We were proud of Earl.
We were proud of Earl, so we loaded Earl back up, took him home, and, of course, it was a great day.
We still couldn't quit talking about it.
It was.
Earl won first place.
Earl won first place. It was... you had to, of course, us telling the podcast, it kind of paints the picture of what it was like, but it was exactly what it was like. We had an $18 goat that we got from the goat auction on its deathbed, and
where do you think that he would have been today? Not today, but then during that goat show, had we not adopted him.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, it just makes you smile to know that you took something under your wing, and we weren't doing it for any kind of monetary gain. It wasn't what it was about. It was just fun.
I don't even know how much money we won.
I don't know either.
$100 maybe?
It was something more than what we had. It was a few bags of feed for Earl.
Right.
Or
a few
bottles,
bags
whatever.
Of feed from Earl. That's right. Earl, how old did Earl live? Was it 2 years?
About 2 years.
3 years?
About 2 years.
And this was going back to us being, newbies. Earl got sick, and I thought he was bloated because he just stood in the middle of the thing, and he just I could tell something was wrong. So we loaded him up and took him to our vet.
We did. And not only did we load him up and take him to the vet, we loaded him up in the Land Cruiser with pregnant Brooke.
Very much pregnant Brooke.
Very much pregnant.
I think you were 8 months pregnant.
I was a long way along. Who was sick from the time I found out I was pregnant till the time I gave birth.
You had a rough pregnancy.
I did. And took him to our local vet to where they said...
Which is in Marion, Alabama, which is another 30
plus
minutes.
Well, it's about 40 miles from us.
From us.
But we felt confident that he would know what was wrong. And we felt like if anybody could fix him... That would be the answer.
And we didn't think anything was terribly wrong, too. I just thought it was bloated. That's it.
Because we had heard about bloat, but we didn't have any, experience with it. We just knew that they needed help when that happened.
Right.
We knew about baking soda.
And I was trying to give him the Heimlich maneuver because I thought it could, make him burp was basically what I was trying to do. But
I think I took him myself.
No, we both went.
Did we? Okay.
Because I remember him looking at him. He said, "This is not good," and I was like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "I can't do anything for him." He said, so he suggested Tuskegee,
which is the small ruminant.
Yeah, he said that they're more with small ruminants. Auburn would have been larger ruminants, like Peaches, which Peaches is not a ruminant, but that's where we took Peaches was Auburn.
But we took his advice, and he called and made all the arrangements. Ahead of time.
Yep.
Told them that they are headed that way, and they will be there shortly. Well, Tuskegee's 2+ hours away from here.
It's a long ways, and we were in that old Land Cruiser. They got 6 miles to the gallon,
and I'm pregnant.
And the air conditioning was.
It was hard to keep up with. And I'm riding in the back
with Earl.
With him laying in.
And it was middle of summer.
Yeah.
And we got caught in 5 o'clock traffic in Montgomery.
We did.
Long story short, we made it to Tuskegee, and they broke the bad news to us. And basically, Earl had exactly what we were talking about earlier. He had a kidney stone, and it got lodged, and his bladder had bursted.
Yes, it was too late. There was nothing that could be done.
Nothing that could be done.
And so we had to make the decision whether we wanted to bury him at home or whether we wanted to leave him there
Right.
And let them do it. And by this time, we were literally exhausted.
Very exhausted.
Very just emotional.
Very emotional.
My
Your hormones
were
was
crazy.
So they did put Earl down for us.
And we ended up letting
them, take care of him. And plus too, they could use him for research.
And we wanted that because we wanted others to be able to learn from what happened with our goat. And we were very goat shy after that.
We were very goat shy after that. And matter of fact, it wasn't long. Marycarl was born. We still had goats. We had We had several goats. We had several fainting goats. We had some pygmies.
But they weren't Earl.
None of them were Earl at all. So we really got disinterested in goats.
We did.
And then Marycarl cared nothing about goats.
Well, our child began. She came first.
Right.
And so we felt like we were not giving the goats the attention that they deserve because we were literally in their pen every single day.
All the time. That's right.
And they were, associated with us. They just loved us.
Right.
And we were their family. And so after she was born, we felt like we needed to make some changes. And our little girl fell in love with horses. And so
because
that goat lady turned into the horse lady.
She turned into the horse lady.
She no longer had goats.
And she's still the horse lady.
So
we got rid of the goats.
We got rid of the goats. We ended up getting Marycarl a miniature pony.
And so this is going back to us saying, if you're dealt with one hand, try to make something out of it. Well, we got rid of the goats. Well, the goat pen now is my big garden.
The big garden. And it was a hard decision to part with goats because we're not the kind of people that get an animal and then decide it's not for us and send it elsewhere.
Right. They went to a good home. They went to a really good home. A big farm, had a bunch of land.
We felt like they would be better where they were going than they were.
Right.
And plus, I hate to say that Earl was our only love, but the one that loved us the most was no longer with us. And so therefore...
And we never felt that way again until we got Tip.
Never felt that way again and didn't know we could.
Right.
Didn't know we could feel that way. And so we're very, very, I guess you would just say shy to get into goats again because of what happened.
Right.
I mean, we still... when we're down there and we see Tip urinate, it's a happy moment because
we look
feel
all
like
the time.
Things can happen.
Things can happen.
And I realize things can happen with anything. It's
That's
not that. It's just when something happens and it's fresh on your mind.
Yes.
You just...
And goats can go downhill fast.
They sure can.
Yeah.
They either have the will to live or they don't.
And a lot of times you don't have any signs. And so, one minute they're like this and next minute they're...
Because in the case of Earl, we did everything right. Yeah. At least we thought we did.
We thought we did.
And it's not anything that we could have done different.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, now we know to add the minerals, but there was nothing at that time that we could have done different. Right. Because we didn't have a tractor supply. We didn't have access to those minerals.
Well, we were driving, 20 miles to go get the goat feed.
To go get the goat feed. And, times change, people change, and just don't beat yourself up over
That's right.
some things that you have no control over.
Things are going to happen. If you have a homestead or a farm, things are going to happen.
Things are going to happen, and they're not always good, but a lot of times they are good. So take those good times with the bad times and keep rolling.
That's right.
My shirt says Happy Camper, so I think that's appropriate.
Mine says Adler Farm. Shout out to my boys over there at Adler Farm. What's up, guys? Well, I guess that'll end this one.
And I think we may pick up with the next one with Marycarl being born.
I think so.
That's kind of a great opening for the next one as to why we have one child. And why did we wait so long?
Why did we wait so long?
I'm
going to tell you, there's a lot of people with the first podcast realized our age and cannot believe that
I'm about to have a birthday, and I'm about to enter my middle 40s.
Yeah, I'm 45, and you're 44.
I'm 44, so... what that means is when I had Marycarl, I was 34.
Yep.
And why did we wait? Why do we only have one child? There's a lot of homesteads that have they're keep on keeping on.
And multiple children, yeah.
And multiple children. There's not anything wrong with that. We're not saying that.
No, not at all.
Let y'all have some insight as to, why.
That's right.
And so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So this will end this episode of the Cogcast podcast. I'm trying to think of any updates. Oh, I know what I wanted to go over real quick before y'all go. There are some things that our channels, this channel, the podcast channel, we're just growing pretty big. I say pretty big for us. It's just us. And so what's happening is we're getting lots of emails now, lots of messages,
social media
comments
that in there, y'all.
We used to be able to comment, respond to everything. It's impossible for us to, if we try to do it now, it would take 8 hours a day of us just answering comments. It's
impossible. And Marycarl said, well, I can help. And she started
Marycarl
answering some.
Yep.
And she will do it, but y'all, some of them get overlooked. And it doesn't mean that yours is not important.
Right.
Because it is important.
It's very important.
But that doesn't mean that we can physically go in and answer every question.
It just gets overwhelming because we're on all the platforms.
We miss some of them.
We got Facebook fans, and so we got YouTube fans, we got Instagram fans, we got TikTok fans, Twitter fans. So it's just,
don't feel like you're not important, because you are important. That's not what we're getting at. We're getting at that it's impossible to physically see everything.
It is physically
and respond.
Because our phones and stuff are blowing up all day long.
Jason works a full-time job. I homeschool Marycarl. We take care of the animals. It's just,
yes,
we want to answer your question. It's not that we're not trying. We just may not get to it.
And a lot of times it goes to spam too. All those things have spam folders, and if it thinks it's spam, it'll kick it to spam, which we don't check that often, which we may probably need to do. But don't think we're ignoring you. It's just become overwhelming, and we thank you guys for all the comments and the likes and the shares and the messages.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
We may get to it, but just don't be disappointed if we don't, because that doesn't mean we don't love you.
Yes.
We love all of you.
That's right. Absolutely do. We can't thank you guys enough.
And keep sharing, because the more people that see our story and hear our story, maybe the more homesteaders we'll have.
That's right. And maybe it'll help somebody else. Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.